I'd like to welcome our online participants. Thank you. So, Moses, you're welcome to present. Thank you.
Good afternoon to you all. I would like to thank the organizers of this conference for thinking about judiciary and making it part of the discussion. We are really very grateful. The topic given to me for presentation this afternoon is psychosocial support for refugees and hosts in pursuit of justice. I know you have talked a lot about psychosocial support, and we have a saying in the legal fraternity that you may be experts, but we are experts of experts. So in that regard, I may not need to confuse you with the double expert knowledge of the definition of psychosocial support. May you go to slide number 4. Yes, proceed. Proceed. Okay. Let me begin from here because the previous presenters talked a lot about stress and other associated factors that refugees and host communities suffer. Now, I would like to begin with the stress baggage carried by refugees and host communities. This category of special people have the following: depression, self-pity and self-esteem, bitter feeling, aggressiveness towards others, suicidal feelings, condemning themselves and perhaps even God, breakdown of community services, loss of sense of security, and loss of income. And when you have all these negative factors upon you as your baggage, as our sister Rita says, as the stress level rises, cognitive function diminishes. So people who come to court, the refugees and the host communities, carry that luggage. And the refugees basically are involved in criminal matters. We have few refugees who are involved in civil matters. The civil matter refugees are mainly those in urban centers. So what then is the intervention of judiciary? What's the response of judiciary when somebody comes with all this baggage? Yes, we proceed. Yes, proceed. Now, judiciary, in responding to the plight of refugees and host communities who are in the pursuit of justice, has done the following. Judiciary has established justice centers. Justice centers were established by the Honorable Chief Justice in 2011 as a result of cries from various categories of people that we have these people, how are we catering for their psychosocial needs? So, the Justice Centers of Uganda were established. It's an autonomous body, but within judiciary. It was established to provide legal aid and psychosocial support for indigent members of the community. We leave alone the rest. We specialize on the indigent and the very vulnerable. So Justice Centers Uganda works in so far 12 districts. For Kampala region, or the Greater Kampala region, we have the head office in the High Court, Uganda, and we have an office in Mengo, we have an office in Mukono. These cater for the psychosocial needs of the urban refugees. There are, as I have said, there are 12 of them. That is the list where we have offices. And the 13th one is soon going to be established in the West Nile region to cater for the big refugee population in the region. So what is the mandate? What is the core mandate of Justice Centers Uganda? Justice Centers Uganda offer legal services on phone and for clients who walk in. And in so doing, they do psychosocial counseling. They carry out mediation and follow up on memorandums secured through mediation. They conduct litigation in court. And carry out comprehensive referrals. When a client comes to them, whether a refugee or host member of the community, and if they see that your case is beyond their management, then refer you to the next appropriate body that can handle you. And they actually work very closely with the Uganda Counseling Association. So in carrying out their mandate, Justice Centers Uganda reaches out to vulnerable communities through meetings with communities and specific outreach for women, children, and the disabled. I remember when I was Chief Magistrate in Tororo, that was in 2010, 2011. That time, you remember the violence, the election violence in Kenya. There were many refugees who came to Uganda, and Tororo was the epicenter. We will work together with the Justice Centers Uganda. We'll go and counsel the refugees and talk to them, to support them through the difficult times they are going through. So Justice Centers engages partners in academic and other institutions on how best to handle the matter of refugees. You remember there was a question which was posed for Ezra to answer. Do you just consider refugees as commodities? No. There are bodies working to ensure that something tangible is done to support refugees. So, Justice Centers establish solid networks of collaborators that facilitate research on issues concerning access to justice. So they are out there doing research. So when they come to your door knocking, please be open and support them. They lobby for changes in laws, policies, and practices that affect the poor person's access to justice. They also aim to improve institutional capacity of their staff. You see, psychology and psychosocial support, or counseling generally, is not taught in the School of Law. But Justice Centers Uganda has lawyers, and most of these lawyers are being taught the skill of counseling. So, Justice Centers Uganda has full-time psychological counselors at each of their centers, and the provision of psychosocial support by Justice Centers Uganda makes it stand out. For example, psychological counseling has empowered court users, refugees and host communities alike, even others who are not refugees, to manage their emotions in order to enable them either solve their disputes amicably or go through legal process with contentment and peacefully. So before you come to the courts of law, they are there to support you. And once you are supported, that burden which we talked of comes down. Our counseling enables Justice Center Uganda to understand and address root causes of conflict, thereby avoiding a number of uncalled for processes. They'll be able to understand what the refugees need and how best to handle their matters. Justice Centers has established partnership with other counseling institutions, as I have said earlier, and as I had said earlier, Uganda Association of Counsellors, for purposes of referring and managing difficult matters. And Justice Center Uganda engages qualified volunteers and offers regular training for legal and paralegal staff to enable them to understand how to manage psychosocial needs. So what is the relevance of psychosocial support to refugees and host communities? One, it enables them experience love. And the moment you love somebody or you show love to somebody, you will be at par. And that person will open up and will be comfortable. It also enables refugees and the host communities to feel protected, that when I go to court, I will have a leeway out. There is legal protection awaiting us. It builds meaningful relations between refugees and host communities, and even those who are not members of the host communities. And it helps to have a sense of self-worth and belonging. Self-worth is very important. If you don't have a sense of belonging, isolation comes in, stress and other associated factors, and they can cause you many other physical and mental challenges. So what are the outcomes of psychosocial support offered by the courts of judicature through the justice centers? Increased access and utilization of basic care services, and improved physical, social, and emotional well-being of the refugees and the host communities. So the moment your well-being is catered for and you have access to the basic services, then you stand an upper chance of moving on a sound and solid ground. Judiciary has partnered with Refugee Law Project, and one of the innovations is to conduct mobile courts. Actually, as we talk now, there is a mobile court session going on in Lamour. And these are not simply mobile court sessions in the legal sense. They begin with counseling. They counsel the members who head refugee units. They counsel the refugees, they counsel the host communities, and by the time the court sessions begin, the tempers of all those who are involved comes down. Yes, we proceed. We proceed, yes. Judiciary has this strategy of court open days. It is at this fora that members of the community are called upon to come and discuss matters concerning them. And in most cases, the top management of judiciary is involved. Sometimes the Chief Justice goes, the Principal Judge, the Deputy Chief Justice, and the other high-ranking officials. They go and interact with the community. They talk to them, they counsel them, and let them know how best to access services in the courts of law. At the end of it, there is a Q&A session where the public freely interacts with the court officials. There are also recent developments which are intended to help the needy, the vulnerable, the indigent in access to justice. For example, the small claims procedure. Here you don't need lawyers to represent you. You go to court as you are, and your matter is settled as fast as possible. There's a time limit within which to handle small claim cases. And I remember the fastest time has been set by me when I was Chief Magistrate in Masindi. Within 30 minutes, I had already settled a dispute worth 9 million shillings. So it's a very good procedure for handling matters. Mediation. Sometimes you do not necessarily need to go to court and battle matters. You need just to, dialogue with your colleague, with your opposite partner, to see where the strengths are, where the weaknesses are, and arrive at an amicable conclusion, a memorandum, which can then be enforced. Of course, judiciary has public relations officer who helps in advocacy, sharing information, and in public relations. That is very important in matters concerning refugees and the other members of the public at large. We have also other interventions. We have justice centers, we have the Refugee Law Project, which comes to train us, and once we are trained, we also train other members of the judiciary in how to handle mandates concerning refugees. We also have a partnership with UNHCR, with OPM, on how to promote psychosocial support for the refugees. And of course, the end result is reduced emotions. Refugee camp leaders are being trained to handle minor cases and reconcile conflicting parties as a result of this. We also have Uganda Law Society. They also provide legal, this is also one of our partners. They provide legal aid services and also counseling to the indigent. May we go faster? What are the challenges we face in providing psychosocial support? See, this is an emerging area in the adjudication process. Not many judicial officers know about it. So they are bound to fault. When somebody comes and shows anger, you may think this person wants to undermine your authority as a judicial officer, and yet there are burdens this person is carrying. We have few court users who understand it too, and psychosocial support specialists are few, young and inexperienced. Somebody may come and tell you, I was raped, I conceived, but my child died. And this is a young lady who is counseling such a person with heavy burden. Somebody who has perhaps not been married, has never known a man, has never conceived. How do you begin to carry the burden, equate yourself to that person's situation? So, but with time, they will learn, and it goes on. So what are the ways forward? Judiciary is striving hard to ensure that more fully fledged services for justice centers are opened, capacity building and awareness for judicial officers so that they are able to understand these challenges better, carefully examine training needs of non-specialist service providers of psychosocial interventions and those who train and supervise them for the purpose of reaching grassroots levels at refugee camps. There was a gentleman who presented here, Tutapona is doing exactly that. And then Justice, Law and Other sector, together with other partners, are also working hard. That's why you see the police is here. The prisons today is not here. Local government, OPM, all these are partnerships intended to strengthen our activities. Partners who campaign, partners who champion refugee cause should closely monitor and evaluate the effectiveness or potential harm of psychological interventions, such data can be shared for ongoing interagency and global learning. And this is actually what Ezra had talked about in the afternoon before we went for lunch. Yes? There is need for refugees to cope. Coping mechanism is very, very important for refugees. Coping mechanism and resilience. How to be resilient when you now have this challenge. But above all, let us continue to dialogue, support each other. And I'm indeed grateful that